Hey everybody, welcome to Crack Pack Tuesday number 62 on the Mana League. I'm John as always, and we've got ourselves another pack of Shadows over Innistrad. There's not too long left, only a few weeks before we're going to be into Eldritch Moon set reviews. And of course, last week we did a pack or two of Eldritch Moon. To ruin the immersion, I am recording this before I even purchased those packs, but wasn't it exciting when we opened that Foil Force of Will and Mana Crypt in the same pack? I hope. We'll see. Anyways, we're doing Shadows over Innistrad today. We're going to open this pack, see what's in it, and discuss what we would take pack one, pick one, if this was a draft. Up first, we have ourselves a Silberland Snapper. Silberland Snapper, 5 and a blue for a turtle. It's a 6/6, and it can't attack unless you've cast a non-creature spell this turn. Absolutely horrible, even as a 6/6 blocker. No reason you should ever be playing this card, and certainly never first pick it. You should last pick it, if possible. Even then, you might take a basic over it. Up next, we've got Militant Inquisitor. Militant Inquisitor, 2 and a white for a creature human cleric. It's a 2/3, and it gets +1/+0 for each equipment you control. This is okay in the humans deck if you have a True Faith Sensor or 2, or Neglected Heirloom or something like that. Generally, you're not going to be seeking these guys out too much. They're just going to be in a pack when you already have equipment, and you say, okay, there's nothing else for me, I may as well take this. Certainly not a first pick. Up next, we have a Storm Rider Spirit. Storm Rider Spirit, 4 and a blue for a creature spirit, 3/3 Flash Flyer. I wanted to like this so bad. It's so close to being Nephalia Sea Kite, which was a super great card, arguably even first pick in Dark Ascension. That was a 2/3 flyer with flash for 1 less mana, and it was a bird. It wasn't even a relevant creature type. But yeah, it turns out 1 extra mana for 1 extra power turns this into something significantly less playable. It's still all right if you're in a blue deck that can make the late game, but since the blue decks are relatively so weak compared to what else is in this format, it just ends up not being that good, and I would never first pick it. Next up, we have a Ghoul Caller's Accomplice. 1 and a black for a creature human rogue. Gets a 2/2. For 3 and a black, you can exile it out of your graveyard to get yourself a 2/2 zombie. At sorcery speed, of course. Yeah, this guy's fine. I would play him in most black decks. I would never first pick him unless the pack was horrible, and we've had a couple of those, so who knows? But we're going to hope that we're not going to first pick a Ghoul Caller's Accomplice. Up next, we've got a Loam Dryad. Loam Dryad, a single green mana for a creature Dryad Horror. It's a 1/2. Tap an untapped creature you control to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Loam Dryad's fine. I generally prefer it if I'm splashing for something. I generally prefer it in sealed as well, as opposed to in draft. In draft, I don't think I've ever played one of these. And I would have to be splashing something that I really seriously want to splash it and had missed out on getting a Wildfield Scarecrow or a Fork in the Road or something like that. I'm certainly never going to first pick it, though. Up next, we've got an Insolent Neonate. Insolent Neonate, single red mana for a creature vampire. It's a 1/1, it's got menace, and you can discard a card and sacrifice it to draw a card. Totally fine in the red-black vampires deck / madness deck. It works for both of those archetypes, which is very nice. It's never a first pick card, but it's usually an include in most red decks, and even a synergy piece in a lot of red decks. Yeah, not a first pick, but totally fine. Up next, we've got a Watcher in the Web. Watcher in the Web is 4 and a green for a creature spirit. 2/5 spirit. Spider. It's not a spirit. Have we had a spirit spider? I'll have to look that up. 2/5 reach, and Watcher in the Web can block an additional 7 creatures each combat. It can block 1 creature for each arm. Yeah, Watcher in the Web is totally fine. I include it in some green decks, and I definitely sideboard it into a number of green decks if I see a bunch of flyers. I always forget about the fact that it can block 8 creatures in combat, and a lot of people do forget that as well. So don't forget that. It's pretty darn useful, but never going to first pick it. Up next, we've got a Crow of Dark Tidings, and this is our last common, and we don't have a first pick yet, so come on commons and rares. Crow of Dark Tidings, creature zombie bird, it's a 2/1 flyer. When it enters or leaves the battlefield, you put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Or sorry, not leaves the battlefield, dies. So if you exile it, it does not mill. Yeah, Crow of Dark Tidings is fine. I'd include it in most black decks. It doesn't even matter if I have graveyard shenanigans. It's a 2/1 flyer for 3. A lot of people are really upset about milling themselves. They don't want to do that. And so they would look at this and they would say, oh, well, I don't have anything to bring back, or I don't have a Macabre Waltz. Why would I ever play this? You play it because it's a 2/1 flyer for 3, and your opponent's going to be dead in a maximum of 10 turns unless they deal with it somehow, in addition to the other things that you're doing. Don't worry about milling yourself. This is a totally fine card, but it's not really first pickable. Next up, we've got an Epitaph Golem. Epitaph Golem is 5 generic mana for an artifact creature golem. It's a 3/5. You can pay 2 to put target card from your graveyard onto the bottom of your library. When I first saw this, I had no idea what it was doing in the format, no idea why you would ever play it. You play it if you are in an aggressively self-milling deck. A deck that you can knock yourself down to 0 cards in your library within the first 8 or 9 turns. At which point, with this on the battlefield, you start putting whatever card you want from your entire library as the card you're going to draw next. It's very, very, very handy, and it's a 3/5 blocker that blocks really, really well. It's a solid card in that deck only. I would never first pick this either. I would have to be already in kind of a Delirium self-mill deck, see one of these come by, pick it up, and then go even a little bit more aggressive with something like a Crawling Sensation or something like that. But yeah, Epitaph Golem, totally good in a very specific type of deck. Otherwise, not really good and not a first pick. Uncommon number 2 saves us. We get a first pick finally. Sinister Concoction. Single black mana for an enchantment. Pay a black, pay a life, put the top card of your library into your graveyard, discard a card, sacrifice it to destroy a creature. You have to pay a lot, but it's totally worth it to blow up anything you want. I will always play a Sinister Concoction. I'll always play a second Sinister Concoction. And even better if I'm in black-red and getting a Fiery Temper off of this or something like that. Super solid card, very first pickable, very happy to see it. And I'm glad that this pack was not a total washout. Because up next we have a Magnifying Glass. 3 generic mana for an artifact, tap it, add a colorless mana to your mana pool, pay 4 generic, tap it to investigate. This is so slow, I would never play it in draft. I might play it in sealed, where sealed is usually a bit slower, but draft, never, ever, ever, and certainly not a first pick. The pile of cards in my hands feels a little bit big, so we might have a foil, or a second flip card. But let's see what our rare is. Our rare is a Silver Fur Partisan. Silver Fur Partisan is 2 and a green for a creature, human, werewolf. Sorry, not human werewolf, creature wolf warrior. 2/2 trample. Whenever a wolf or werewolf you control becomes the target of an instant or sorcery spell, put a 2/2 green wolf creature onto the battlefield. I like Silver Fur. It's done a lot of good work for me. I've gotten a lot of wolves off of it. You definitely have to be in the correct deck, which of course is red-green wolf/werewolves, but it can do a lot of work, and I would first pick this depending on the pack for sure. Our flip card is just a Harvest Hand, 3 generic mana for a Scarecrow 2/2. When it dies, it becomes a Scythe that you can equip for 2 mana. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and it has Menace if it's a human. Don't really like Harvest Hand. I'd play it as a 23rd card if I really desperately needed it. Maybe if I had like an Abyssinian Missionaries or something, but otherwise not really going to take a second glance at it. And we do have a foil, and it goes back to our commons, so we do actually have a first pick common. We've got a foil Fiery Temper. Yeah, Fiery Temper. Super love it. Super awesome. Absolutely love me a Fiery Temper. I'll first pick this for days. So yeah, this is actually a little bit of a difficult pick. We've got 2 pieces of removal, or we've got a rare Kinda Bomb. Kinda Bomb. The fact that Silver Fur Partisan has to be in red-green werewolves, I think cuts it out for me. I don't think I can willingly pick that above a Temper or a Concoction, just because Silver Fur Partisan does require something else to go correct in this draft. Fiery Temper and Sinister Concoction requires me to be black or red. Silver Fur Partisan requires me to be green and red. And werewolves explicitly, so it's out. Between Fiery Temper and Sinister Concoction, I'm not sure which one I prefer more. I think Fiery Temper might be slightly better, but Sinister Concoction does, of course, kill anything. Arguably, this is going to come down to the fact that Fiery Temper is foil, and I would probably in a draft like to have a foil Fiery Temper. So I'm going to go with the Fiery Temper here, but I could certainly see an argument for the Sinister Concoction. Let me know what you would have taken. Would you have taken the foil Fiery Temper, the Sinister Concoction, the Silver Fur Partisan, or something else? Let me know in the comments down below, or up in the poll in the top right-hand corner, or both if you really want to let me know. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at TheManaLeak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me at Facebook.com/TheManaLeak and Twitch.tv/TheManaLeak. You've already found me here on YouTube. You've got that comment section down below. Please click the thumbs up icon and the subscribe button if you haven't already, if you want to see more of my content when it gets uploaded. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all next time.